This is the Action Cast, the only podcast that's scheduled for summary incineration. And now, our feature presentation. Yay, it's the Action Cast.
Yeah!
We're supposed to have a schedule on something about Mondays, but I feel like at this point we just do this whenever we feel like it, once a month.
I hate Mondays.
Yeah, tell me why.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jim Davis.
It's our guest this month. Jim Davis.
Known hater of Mondays and lover of lasagna, Jim Davis.
That's right.
And lover of gun karate.
Why you don't
That's
see Jim
right.
Davis in public anymore, because he's gotten extensive conversion therapy and he looks like Garfield.
I thought it was because he was dead, but I guess what do I know?
Yeah, that's what they want you to think.
That's what they want you to think.
Uh-huh.
Fair enough. All right. So this month's
When the
movie...
real human Garfield shows up, you'll know the truth.
Jesus, that's a... Would it be
And he
real
can change
human?
everything about himself except for his genetics, you know?
Yeah, it's like that Kevin Smith movie where that dude turns I'm a Mac into a walrus.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know that one.
Tusk. It started as they were all super baked on the Kevin Smith podcast, and that's like literally how it
kidding,
started,
huh?
and then they ended up just like making the movie, which is
How Equilibrium got made.
utterly, yeah, which is how Equilibrium got made, and that
Dude, nah.
is
They
our
got super
movie.
baked and read Fahrenheit and
They read Fahrenheit 451 and watched The Matrix, and they were like, "Fuck yeah!" That's this
art
month's
is
movie.
good, man.
Yeah. What? So, Alex, you picked this movie. You subjected us
Fuck
to
yeah,
this.
I blessed you with this.
Why?
Like, come on.
Well, so why? I want to know why.
Because back in the day, your boy and his friends used to get high and watch this movie and laugh at how
Uh-huh.
fucking awful it was. That's it. This movie fucks. This movie's great. Like, this is a great film.
So I'm gonna say
You want to take that again without laughing when you
No.
say it? Or?
it's
Absolutely
impossible.
not.
That is impossible.
This movie is fun. It's good, and I like it. That's all there is to say.
I took
it's
a-
awful.
That's
It
all you have to
sucks.
say. You insisted we watch this, and we're done at 2 minutes and 45 seconds because that's all you have to say.
I mean, we can break. I want to break down and discuss at length how shitty and bad and dumb this movie is. But
I've got a
you
few
know.
more things to say about this movie. than
Yeah,
that, I think.
I'm looking forward to Ethan's take on this movie. I will say that I'm suddenly unsure that I had ever actually seen this movie in its entirety before, but it's also possible that like all of the stuff that isn't like gun karate is just so incredibly dumb and like wafer thin that I just didn't remember any of it.
Whopper thin. I remembered the Sean Bean stuff being like way longer.
Forgot
It's, like,
he
the
was
first,
even
like,
in this
10
movie.
minutes in of the movie.
Yeah.
Also, this is the first movie we've ever done that is like a Sean Bean dies thing. Like, how can that be? He dies in so many like movies, and we've never done a movie where Sean Bean was in it and died.
Really?
I don't think so.
I mean, we've done
like, it
like
feels-
100 and however many movies at this. More than that, because we've done multiple movies in a single show
Right.
before. But I mean, I can't think of one, so I guess you're right.
I can't either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I actually took a note of that. I forgot he was in this, and I took a note that said, "How fast does he die?" And then like my next note is like, "Oh fuck, he's dead already." Like,
yeah,
uh,
totally.
He dies reading the work of William Butler Yeats, if I remember correctly, right?
That sounds
Yeats,
correct, yeah.
Yeats, not Keats, I think, but poetry.
That's
either way.
right. In what I'm gonna call a quote unquote great shot, where he like slowly puts the book over his face, so when he gets shot in the head, it's like pages are flying everywhere.
I didn't understand what he was doing there. Was he doing like a suicide by cop thing?
Yeah,
By slowly
yes.
reaching for the. Okay,
Yes.
so he was inviting that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
believe
that
so.
was my interpretation.
Getting shot in
Okay.
getting shot in the head seems better than getting burned alive. So
He knows it's only gonna go one way, so he's like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna like do this."
Why did the bad guys? I'm jumping way ahead, and we should go back and go through the
saying,
movie. But why did the bad guys decide that the name of that execution would be combustion and not like we have words for that?
Well, they don't take poetic license because they don't have emotions anymore. So
Yeah, but
Well,
changing
actually-
the word that people use for that is poetic license.
well,
No,
There's
see,
many things. There's many things that
I mean,
about these
combustion
films
is
that
a
make no
word
sense.
for
Like,
that. That is a word for that. You combust something is to light it on fire.
no.
That's-
We'll see. Here's the thing. So, the combustion chamber is actually one of the cylinders in a giant engine that drives. But you didn't see this as like deep lore, and you don't really see that.
Okay,
But that's
all right.
they put people in there, and then they compress and explode them to make energy for the rest of
So
society.
he did say something. I watched this movie like a few hours ago, so it's fresh in my brain. He did say something offhand about how, like, sir, like the lock's already engaged. If we do it now, like the cylinder and blah blah blah, it'll
they
like
did,
go
yeah.
up to the street level. So
Right.
it's like there probably is some deep lore about like, yeah, this is like the fuel for, you know what I mean? That's probably not wrong, but this movie's too stupid to make that like obvious that you know what I mean? Like.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe. Apparently, Dominic Purcell is in this movie, which like I didn't didn't
He's
catch
in like
that at all.
He's literally in the first scene. He's like one of the guys who's like hiding the Mona Lisa.
Right.
Who, like he literally has like one line, which is like, "Cheese it, it's the cops," basically, and then like he just.
I
gets-
didn't notice that
everybody
was
gets killed.
him. I didn't notice that was him. So before we get too deep into it, I do want to set the stage a little bit. This movie is a 2002 action film written and directed by Kurt Wimmer, who he has written a lot of real bad shit.
Yeah.
And he's written a couple things that I thought were okay. And he's directed basically nothing but trash, near as I can tell. Which is basically, his only directorial credits are this, Ultraviolet, which came out 4 years later and is basically the same movie, near as I can tell. And
It's
Is that
same-
the one?
No,
Is that the
listen,
one
listen.
where she becomes the computer?
no,
That is
that's
the Milia Jovovich one where she lives in like a dystopian future, not unlike this one. That is like there's vampires and non-vampires, and like they like. Yeah, it's really awful. It's basically this movie, but without the like what I'm gonna put.
Pardon
in
me.
heavy...
Pardon me. I think you mean hemoglophagia.
Oh, dude.
Thank you very much.
Listen, hang
He
on. we're
does
getting-
mean that.
Hi, Anthony. That movie is basically this movie, but without the, and I'm using this like very liberally, without the like quote unquote intelligence. Like that movie is like, what if we just made a shitty action movie? Like, whereas this is like, let's like make a shitty action movie with a quote unquote deeper meaning. Obviously, it doesn't have that, but yeah, Ultraviolet is a great movie. It's really fucking awful. Like and they don't even have, at least this one, the action scenes have a gimmick, which is like, what if guns but karate? That one's just like, I don't know, swords.
Yeah, the one
That's the-
Ethan,
that's
the one you're
That's
thinking.
the fucking gimmick.
Yeah, the one you're thinking of is a Luc Besson movie that is actually like fairly recent.
Yeah, and now that I'm
Lucy.
I'm
that was
sort of-
Scarlett
yeah.
Johansson, 2014. And
Wow,
Lucy
I
2.
thought it was a couple years older.
Lucy 2
yeah,
is
in
currently
I'm
in
realizing
production,
now
apparently.
that
so...
I did watch that when I lived in Seattle, so it had to be in the last decade.
Lucy was-
in after version 1 of the Action Cast.
Lucy was a huge hit. Like that movie made like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Why?
I don't know. It's I mean,
Nothing
it's,
else came out around then.
Was that the
it's-
10% of your brain?
Yes.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
That movie is
Okay.
like more watchable than this one is in a similar like it's really fucking
Debatable.
stupid. Yeah.
I actually found I hated this movie so much that I found that my hate propelled me through the movie. We've watched movies that I think are better than this that I liked. Well, liked is let me dial that back. We've watched movies that I liked more than this that I like were harder to get through because I thought that this movie was so fucking dumb in such an interesting to characterize way that definitely the worst part about this movie is the fighting, because the fighting
that is the
doesn't
exact
have
opposite of my takeaway about this movie.
I think the fighting doesn't have the movies, like, there's no brains to the fight sequences, and the brains in this movie are so fucking stupid. Like anything in this movie where they thought that they were doing something interesting is the parts that are the fucking dumbest.
Well, so all right, so Kurt Wimmer directed that movie and this movie. And he directed a 2020 remake of The Children of the Corn, which, like, hey guys, did you know there was a remake of Children of the Corn that came out in 2020? Because apparently there was. Also, he's a prolific screenwriter.
I don't listen. Children of the Corn is a pretty low tier horror series, so
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I'm fucking
Even I know
baffled
that,
that there was also a 2009 remake of Children of the Corn. So I don't know how, and also there were like what 5 or 6 of the original
there's
ones.
A bunch of those.
I don't know how that had such long legs. It's like the originals, the King story is like good, but I don't need more of that.
I made it through like tons of crappy Friday the 13th and Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but could not with the Children of the Corn series.
Well, that's because the secret is that actually a lot of the later Friday the 13th movies are better than some of the earlier ones, but that does not hold
Children of the Corn, Children of the Corn 2, The Final Sacrifice, Children of the Corn 3, Urban Harvest, Children of the Corn 4, The Gathering, Children of the Corn 5, Fields of Terror, Children of the Corn 666, Isaac's Return,
I
Children
saw
of
that
the Corn
one.
Revelation,
Yeah.
Children of the Corn
I've got,
2009. Children
I've
of
got
the
an
Corn
urban
Genesis.
harvest myself. I've got a basil plant out of my.
No. Does he
Children
who
of the
walks behind the
Runaway.
rows live by your basil plant?
Children of the Corn 2020. There's a lot of Children of the Corn movies. I wonder
God.
if Children of the Corn Genesis and Terminator Genesis are
They're interrelated.
related.
They're
And
linked,
Sega
yeah.
Genesis, not to mention.
Uh-huh.
But not the band, interestingly enough.
No, not at all. But he wrote the screenplay for.
Well, they're all based on the same book.
Right. He wrote the screenplay for the Thomas Crown Affair remake with Pierce Brosnan.
That's a watchable movie. I defend that movie.
That's of the
Directed
remakes
by John McTiernan.
Of the remakes he's written, it's the best one.
Also, he just has a writer
sure.
credit on it, but he doesn't even have the screenplay credit, so that's not in the same.
he
Read
wrote
the other ones.
The Total
It's not- that
Recall remake.
Yeah, that movie's unwatchable.
The Point Break remake. And most recently, he wrote the screenplay for The Misfits, which came out in June of this year. And let me blow your fucking mind, that's a new Rennie Harlan movie. I didn't know anybody still gave Rennie Harlan money to make movies, but apparently they do, with Pierce Brosnan and Nick Cannon and Tim Roth for some reason.
Nick Cannon.
Yes.
What?
You heard me, motherfucker.
No, I know.
You heard
I'm
me.
I'm just confused by.
We're all confused that Rennie Harlan and Nick Cannon made a movie together, written by Kurt Wimmer in 2020. But it happened. We have to live with that now. So, getting back to Equilibrium, I remember this movie strictly as a DVD / VHS / like late night cable phenomenon.
Yeah.
Does anybody remember this movie being in theaters when it came out?
I
I
never
do.
heard of this movie.
What?
I do, but I don't.
I'm
think
glad
I
you're here, Anthony.
Watched it till I saw it on DVD.
It made like $5 million. It was not in theaters for very long.
I was gonna say I'm looking at Box Office Mojo now to see if I can find.
It came out. It's definitely. I remember like it was very heavily marketed as like, you think the Matrix is cool, you pussy. Watch this cool shit. Like that was like
the fucking
was,
pull
like,
quote.
Yeah.
The fucking
I'm 8
pull.
minutes in, and that's accurate so far.
8 minutes. You gotta hurry up, dude.
Yeah,
I
hurry
am.
up. The fucking
Watch it.
pull
Why do you think I'm
quote.
trying to derail this?
The fucking pull quote on the box of this movie is still to this day, because I got the art for that is the thumbnail for this. It like I got from a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray version.
Hell yeah.
And that pull quote on it is still like what, like fucking forget this will make you forget about the Matrix or something like that. And I'm like,
it's definitely like
this hits your brain like a like he just like drank a gallon of mercury. You know, that's why you forget about the Matrix.
Yeah. So
It just pushes all the good shit right out.
Yeah,
you
dude,
know?
I feel that.
Yeah.
This movie and what the one which we have already covered in the past, and
Yes.
like that, like it exists like in the same like Ultraviolet for which I'm glad that there is a connection, because to me those movies and like things of that ilk all existed in the same brain space for me. So I'm glad that he actually did direct Ultraviolet, because I'm like, oh, I'm not crazy, like for this reason at least. For other reasons, but
so by the way, Eric is correct. This movie made $5 million worldwide. In the U.S., it made $1.2 million. So it really did not stick around. Box
Seems
Office
like a lot.
Mojo doesn't say how many like
great.
screens it opened on. It also doesn't say what the estimated budget was, but I feel like it probably didn't like. Christian Bale then wasn't Christian Bale now, but he was like, this is post American Psycho, so he's not nobody. And like, also, the one thing I will say about this movie is like, they don't rely a lot on CG. A lot of this is location and sets, and it looks pretty good. So like, I feel like they spent a lot of money on this movie and did not get much of it back. Which might explain why Kurt Wimmer didn't like make another
or something.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
It was all shot in Germany.
That explains. I was
like
curious
the Olympic
where it was
Stadium
shot.
and
Okay,
a
that
bunch
makes
of
sense.
places in like East Germany and stuff like that. I mean, the fucking flag of the made up country in this movie is like Nazi flag, but with T's.
Right? Yeah.
Just in case,
is that what it was supposed to be? It was
just
Well,
in
it
case
looks
you
like
missed some of the symbolism. So the setup for this movie is that World War III has happened, and they show a bunch of nuclear explosions, and then they cut
Joseph
to all
Stalin
this.
and
There's still
Saddam
like the
Hussein.
society, but somehow nuclear wars happen. But this isn't like the Fallout universe. This is things are pretty much fine, I guess.
Well,
I guess
they don't tell
nuclear
us
war
how.
wasn't as bad.
They don't tell us how far past. Which actually, I kind of
Okay.
appreciate that they don't really try.
You're saying
to
this could be
explain
like
that.
thousands of years in the future.
I don't know that I buy that it's thousands of years, but it could be like 100 years after.
10.
I don't really. I think this movie's
Like-
too
like
stupid
10.
to know what it is, because it also shows a picture. Spoilers a little bit of Sean Bean and Emily Watson just like in normal clothes, presumably like before the
Yeah,
terror.
that was the impression I got. Yeah, there's
So
like
it's
pictures
like-
of them.
So it's it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it seems like it makes sense, but then like you think Star Wars, it's like, you know, they talk about the Clone Wars and you're like, oh, that must have been like 50, 70, 100 years ago, and then it's like you find out it's been like 10 years or something in the actual timeline, or whatever, like 20 I guess, but still it seems like way longer than that. I feel like I got the same weird sense of time, like dilation and contraction here.
I mean, I think that
says-
here they just didn't think about it that hard.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I don't-
They didn't. You can back that up and say about this movie in regards to every single aspect of it. They just didn't think.
Oh
Like,
no, they thought a lot
period.
about the fight scenes for sure. They thought a lot about the fucking gun fu because
Okay,
Did they,
fine.
or did they
Yes,
just did
they
they just
did.
give 2 guns to Christian Bale and tell him to do a bunch of dumb poses and wave him around a lot?
I was gonna say maybe they should have thought about it a little more then.
According to Wikipedia, this movie set in 2072. So
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
well.
I don't know where they pull that number from, but hey, sure.
Do they say? Does Wikipedia have like? How does Wikipedia know this? Was there like a novella or a novelization?
I don't know. Maybe
that
we should
had
find
more
it.
context.
I would love
it.
that. I hope there is. I'm gonna read it.
good lord.
Before we move past just talking about the general like setting and lore of the movie, I want to kind of establish a bit of what I see as the movie's kind of meta lore, which is that this is a movie that could only have been conceived by an affluent white guy who, I mean, as we know, the 90s were a long decade. 2002, basically the 90s. Like, this is a Clinton-era movie
Yeah.
made by white guys who believe that literally the worst thing that's conceivable is a world where the stuff that they were taught to like in liberal arts school becomes a crime to like. Like in this story, they try to conjure. I mean, they literally are trying to basically like figure out like what would a modern day or like a near future version of the Nazis be? The Nazis who, like, you know, a regime who murdered like whatever 10 million people, 12 million people, something like that. And what they come up with is like they can't enjoy like Shakespeare or like they can't like
Well, they can't enjoy anything because
fucking
they
kidding?
can't feel.
Can't enjoy anything.
right?
they
there
can't
is no-
feel, except they can feel the feelings that for white men don't count as feelings, which is anger.
Anger. Yeah.
Well, but
That one
which
doesn't
is
count as a feeling.
which is super weird because explicitly, like so you're in the subtext, like you're correct. Like definitely, there's moments where the characters who are like on the magic drug get angry, but explicitly in the text, they talk about how anger is like the number one emotion they wanted to wipe out. 'cause it's
They
the
gave
one
up all the
that
good
caused war.
emotions
They
to
gave
get
up
rid
all
of the
the good
bad
ones.
emotions, so that way there wouldn't
even
be
though
another world war.
the master of this, you know, like anti-emotion society, like the big bad guy, is like a drywall punching college student. He's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
Well, but that at the
Yeah.
end, he actually just like comes out and says that he's like, I feel
Listen.
like it's.
Listen, is this movie actually about toxic masculinity? Is this an actually like a clever?
No.
no, that's not exactly what I'm saying.
No.
What I think
Yeah,
what
it
I'm
could be,
saying
though.
is
You
that
could interpret it. I mean, that doesn't make the movie good, but that is like one possible semi-positive interpretation of this fucking.
It's-
I
terrible
mean,
movie.
you could definitely
It's a
read it that
movie-
way, but I promise you that is not what Kurt Wimmer thought when he wrote it and directed it.
It's a movie by white guys with money who, despite growing up in America, you know, in like what is relatively close proximity to, you know, things like slavery, or maybe like more recently, like COINTELPRO, the war on drugs, you know, like the AIDS epidemic, true atrocity. The worst
Internment
thing that they
camps,
can imagine
et
is
cetera.
basically like their entire band of like the pinnacle of human experience and the absolute nadir of human experience is, what if I could just kind of like be chill and you know, read books and watch movies and cry sometimes, or what if I couldn't do those things? All my like, you know, material needs are taken care of. There's no evidence in this movie that there's any like, you know, poverty or like, I mean, of course they kill people who, you know, have the Mona Lisa or whatever, but like there's no indication that like normal people who don't have the Mona Lisa aren't living a better life than like half of people in America are living now. So like, I guess it's a loss that like, you know, you can't read Yeats, but like, I don't know. I'm not sure what country these people grew up in. Anyway.
Well, so my read of it was not that it was necessarily an analog to the Nazis. It felt more like they were sort of, which this is weird for in 2002.
Joe, do you want me
is-
to link you a picture of the fucking flag?
Yeah, it's a swastika.
I recall seeing the flag, but I think what they were going for, especially since they put fucking Joseph Stalin front and center before the credits, was like Soviet, you know, like the brutalist architecture of like the,
see,
the
This
Soviet.
is communism. Doesn't it suck?
I
Right.
think. Well, so here's
Right.
the thing. I think that this movie is doing the thing that a lot of really dumb people do, and conflating socialism and Nazism. You know what I mean? Like
Well, it's in the name.
nationalist, socialist, and also socialism are like the same thing, because people are fucking morons who don't understand that different kinds of government can be different but also bad.
Right.
Or good sometimes.
Well,
you know,
right. I
it's
mean,
not-
again,
it
they
isn't-
also they juxtapose Stalin with fucking Saddam Hussein.
Right,
as
exactly,
well,
which makes
but-
no goddamn sense. Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
but
basically
again,
the-
I think the way that sort of it has like very
Socialism
much Red
and communism,
Scare
which aren't actually the
vibes,
same thing either.
right?
I don't
you know?
think the movie has any politics, though. Really, like it uses
No.
those figures because the people who
Right.
have the people who made this movie, like all they know of good and bad is basically like,
Right.
Hitler
I'm
was
in
bad.
America, I live in LA, and I make movies, and I can read books all I want, and you know, I have things like a wife, which in this movie, and I'm getting ahead of myself here, but like, why in this movie are
Yeah,
you
no.
not allowed to feel anything, but you're allowed to
You're allowed
be
to
in a
have
romantic
wives
relationship?
and like
Well,
yeah.
no, it's not romantic because they talk. There's a line at some point about like
Yeah, Taye Diggs.
Yeah,
calls
he
him
wants to
out for
fuck or
wanting
something,
to-
basically. Like, and
Yeah.
it's like the implication is like it's like Demolition Man style. This movie actually reminded me a lot of Demolition Man, except like Demolition Man is like basically a comedy, like it's an action comedy. Like all of the shit that like Cocteau is doing in Demolition Man is played
This
for
movie
laughs,
is
right?
definitely
Like,
this movie is a different genre. It's an action unintentional comedy.
I didn't
I'm
even
not
think it
even
was
sure how much
unintentionally
was
funny.
funny.
Yeah, I didn't even think it was
Yeah.
unintentionally funny for the most part. I thought it was mostly dour and like, you know,
Yeah, that was the funny part.
what
How
was-
hard it was trying to be serious and completely whiffing on all of that. And
I do
also
think
the
we should-
hilariously stupid action sequences.
We should. I just want to. I'm not getting this thought out in a very coherent way. But before we move on to the scene where they burn the Mona Lisa with a flamethrower, I just think like I feel like the summary
You
of
asked me
where
why I
think
picked
was-
this movie, and like think about what you just said. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a movie made by complete fucking idiots who think that they're smart and think
Yep.
that because they like went to art school they're educated, and their knowledge of the world is basically they've never seen anyone who's not just like another white affluent art kid. They think that the entire band of like I was saying of like human ecstasy and human despair is encapsulated in the collective experience of like 90s wealthy white guys, and whether they can enjoy the stuff that they think is cool or not.
Hey man, did you
And-
read 1984, man?
Right, yeah.
Well, this
And
is like
they're-
Alex and I were saying before we started recording. Like, this is like these guys got stoned and watched The Matrix and read
I don't even
Fahrenheit
think they're that
451.
stoned. I don't even think they're that interesting.
So this movie is like the reason why I never let anybody read any of the fiction I wrote because I was afraid it would be like this.
Yeah, no, and I had that feeling too. What was the movie that
Amazing.
we watched? We watched a movie like within the last few months that gave me that feeling like I would have thought that this was so cool when I was 14, and it makes me feel sad.
I wouldn't have thought this was cool, but I would have accidentally written something like this.
Yeah,
I feel
maybe
like.
maybe
So, I have a slightly different take.
Sure.
Uh-oh.
Going back to now,
How
now that
far in are you now? 15 minutes?
I'm almost 20.
Okay.
So I feel like I've also been skipping around a little bit. I feel like
I'm glad we brought Anthony in to be the expert on this.
yeah, I
film.
am the
Well,
expert.
I haven't
I'm
seen
rapidly
it, but-
becoming an expert. I've seen some of it now.
Okay.
So I'm what 1/3 of an expert.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're ahead of like most of the population of.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
So going back to what we talked about at what you were saying about the poster at the beginning and like the comparison to the Matrix, I'm getting the same feeling I get when I watch Masters of the Universe, where it's like, man, somebody way less talented really wanted to make Star Wars. That's this for the Matrix.
yeah, I mean, I don't think you're
And
wrong
they're
about
like,
that.
we need the Matrix has a fucked up future. We need our own fucked up future, but we can't do the same thing. I know. How about Nazis?
But it's like it's not somebody who even understands that they have like it's somebody who's so devoid of ideas coming up with that rip off of the thing they think is cool that they don't understand that the thing that they're copying had ideas. Like they don't see the difference.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not sure what
you,
they like about the Matrix.
bet you the person who made this
The cool
watched the
action
Matrix and is like,
sequences.
I had that same basic idea,
Yeah.
Right.
and
Yeah.
yeah, this is what they churned out.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is so
it
it's
ruled.
it's. I
But
mean,
like, I skipped ahead. There's like kind of like a kung fu fight.
there
That's
are a few of them.
Gun kata. That's gun
There's-
kata.
So like
There's
that
like
was
a
the
sword-
thing.
No, there's like a sword.
Yeah, there's like a
fight.
sword fight,
There's
and
a
it's
sword
like,
fight.
man,
There are two kind of.
he does take.
I know
Taye
he knows
Diggs'
kung fu.
He does take Taye Diggs' face off,
Yes,
which
he does.
I'm always in favor
Yes, he
of.
does.
I have a great detail that I noticed that if I will share later. That's a little like treat for later. But
Yeah,
there's a
I know exactly what you're talking about. So
it.
it's amazing. I noticed it too, and I
It's
was like,
fucking
"What
incredible.
the fuck?" Yeah,
It's fucking
It
incredible.
really is.
Is it in that scene where his face
Yes. If
takes
it's
his face
the
off?
same one I'm thinking of, it is. Yeah.
All right, we'll just skip to it now. Hey, at the very end of the movie, there's a
There's a
big
JPEG
final
of Taye Diggs' face on the floor.
Yeah, after he beats the final bad guy, there's an aerial shot of Christian Bale standing there in the room, like with all the carnage around him, and I was like, man, Taye Diggs' face would be on the floor right there, and I like looked and I was like, it is, and it's a really shitty quality JPEG of his face, like just on the floor.
Yep.
It rules.
Yeah.
This movie
So
fucks. I'm telling you, man.
That's the only good thing in this movie, I think.
So I
It's-
think,
yeah.
I think, so I will say, Ethan, I think you're being a little bit even more uncharitable to this movie than I.
Why would you be charitable to this movie?
This movie is great. This
Like-
movie is great by the logic that Ethan established many,
Oh.
many years ago, which is that a good film and a fun time are the same.
I didn't really.
Yeah, I mean,
that wasn't-
I guess what I have to say is that the movie did. I thought I hated the movie, but it made me want to do the show. Like it made me
Right,
want to talk
right.
about it. So
Like-
maybe that's like
So-
maybe that means it's good. Maybe that means it's worth
I
the time.
think-
I'm not sure.
I don't think it means it's good, but I do like.
Well, No
one's
I
saying
think there's
that.
like something enjoyable about this movie because it's like it's just such a train wreck and such a disaster and so stupid and bad.
Right.
And
It makes you feel
dumb.
good about yourself because at least you're not stupid enough to think that this movie is smart.
It's not even that. It's just like such. There's something compelling about it where you're like, I'm not having a good time. This is awful.
Here's what's
Keep
compelling.
going.
Here's if somebody that I knew asked me whether they should spend time watching this movie, what I would say is, are you a person
No.
who does a podcast about action movies, and you like have some kind of analysis of some perspective on the world, and you understand why this movie is stupid? Then sure, watch it. If not, including the podcast part, don't watch it.
I would
how
say.
much weed you got at home. Like, if the answer is a lot, fucking boot it up, baby. Let's go.
Well, I would say watch a compilation of the fights on YouTube is probably what I would say.
I think that's like the
The
worst.
fights are all in these like tight shots. It looks like you can't tell whether whether he's fighting or he's like cooking food in a wok. Like
I think they're a little better than that. The first one is terrible. The first one is like all in the dark, which like I get kind of what they're going for, but it didn't work for me at all.
No,
but,
it doesn't work. I really like how his hands look like they're like not real.
Yes. Yes.
It's good. It's good.
But I think I mean it's just like it's the thing that's frustrating about movies like this is like I have some level of appreciation for these people who like think they have something to say, right? Because like again, I think Ethan's being a little bit too uncharitable. Like I think that they're like the idea that like if you're like fed and clothed, there's no value in like art and culture and literature and whatever. Like I'm not there with you. I wouldn't like.
no, I'm not saying that, but like I think what I'm saying is if you want me to buy into a story about basically like a totalitarian regime that like has completely repressed everyone, like having them burn the Mona Lisa is like that's like
Hilarious.
it's really funny, but like I don't understand why they wouldn't like try to get me emotionally invested in like let's like see some people who are really suffering. Like really the only suffering that they or the only time that they kind of like go for some low-hanging fruit in terms of getting you to just cheaply buy into the movie,
They
which is
killed
really what the movie needed, is the
Right,
dog.
The dogs. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I mean, it's also like that scene is weird because they're like, what do they do with these animals? And it's like, look, I know you guys have like burned every like book you've ever found, but like you are aware that people used to keep pets, right? Like that's a thing that happened throughout the course of human history. Like that struck me as just like extra
I
silly.
mean, as of the shooting of this movie, it was over 70 years ago, and as we all know, it's impossible to remember anything that happened that long ago.
Well,
So,
fair
I
enough.
don't remember
Possible.
anything from that long ago.
right, exactly. I mean, you don't remember anything from like 10 minutes ago most of the time.
That's
but-
true.
That's why I
fine.
keep having to go back to the beginning of this movie.
But like
You're gonna be a master.
the
on
problem,
the
the
first 10 minutes.
problem with,
Yeah.
I mean, so
Okay, so wait, hold up. I have a question. Would this movie be qualified as an EC-10? Would it need to be burned like the Mona Lisa?
yes.
Or
Definitely
It's
Yes,
it's too
absolutely.
dangerous.
Too
It tells
dangerous.
people,
Tells people
like,
to-
about.
It tells people
yeah.
that the Mona Lisa exists.
or
I
fair
don't
enough, yeah.
That's right.
You might
remember if I-
actually accidentally you might accidentally intersect with some interesting art via watching this movie. So
Are we?
remember-
Have
Probably
we
not, though.
arrived at the Mona Lisa scene? Are we going?
Well, let's
Like,
yeah.
dude.
So the whole conceit is that like there's this drug that makes people not feel, and if you're the idea is that all war has been eradicated because
that whole like anti-pharmaceutical like drug thing is another popular like 90s early
Yes,
2000s
yeah.
thing that showed up a lot, right?
Yeah.
Especially as like anti-anxiety and antidepressant drugs.
And I
started-
was way into that bullshit.
Yep.
I like you totally bought into
You're
that.
not going to
when I was
control
a
me, man.
idiot.
I mean there's
Yeah.
there
I'm gonna listen
so
to these Todd Ashley records and whatever.
there's
Yeah.
like I mean there's like my thought on this is just because I've known people who were prescribed lithium, which was sort of
Right.
like that's like the blunt object antidepressant, which is like you're not depressed anymore, but you also like aren't ever really enthused about anything. You just kind of stop feeling anything. So it like this is again like I'm not defending this movie, but
This
like
is
there
this
are
is well past
there are
One
things
Flew
about
Over the Cuckoo's
right,
Nest era
right.
of
yes,
psychology.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but so there's this drug that makes you not feel anything, and if you're caught not taking the drug, and
Except
you
for
start,
anger or the emotions, the various emotions that people show constantly
well,
throughout the
right,
movie.
yeah, that's part of what I want to talk about too. But is like we said before we started recording, like, is that bad? Is it bad writing or is it commentary about the nature of human emotion? I think it's bad writing, but there's a reading.
I mean, it's bad writing because the whole movie, once spoilers, Christian Bale goes off of the drug and is trying to like maintain throughout, and
Right.
he can't do it. He's like so obviously not in line with what everybody else is doing, and
Oh, dude,
nobody
it's
seems to notice or
wild.
care.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I do. The one I think one of the few like things that actually works in this movie is that as soon as he gets off the drug, he immediately fucks up like time and time again, and it's like, dude, how is this guy not getting caught? And then the whole thing is it's actually a galaxy brain plan by the bad guy.
Right.
who's
It's
like,
Total
"We
Recall.
knew
It's
the
Total
whole
Recall.
time."
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We knew the whole time. But we needed you to think you were pulling.
That's
it
how
off.
Kurt Wimmer got
But
the job to
they-
write the Total
they
Recall
forgot
remake.
that
He was like, I already ripped off the ending to Total
Yeah,
Recall
right.
once,
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly.
But they came up with this brilliant plot, but like forgot that they taught him how to shoot guns good.
right.
Yeah, right.
Which also,
yeah.
by the way, like strictly speaking, well, I guess we'll get to it, but strictly speaking, it's not gun foo, it's stats foo.
Yeah, I just got to that scene and it's incredible.
Yeah, yeah. So everybody's on this drug. If you go off it and you start feeling things, then you're accused. You're found guilty of sense crime, and
Crime.
they burn you alive, which is like a not at all subtle nod towards the Salem witch trials, even though
You're like
the
a witch.
witches there were hanged, not burned, but whatever.
What's
They sort of burn you alive. Sometimes they also just execute you.
Right.
Like
Sometimes
by,
they just shoot you in the face. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, look, man, if you're not going to stop reading that book of poetry, I'm going to have to fucking shoot you, okay? Which is actually not that far off from what real cops do these days, so who knows?
Hey.
it depends on if a grammaton cleric shows up or not, you know.
Yeah, they also never explain. I mean, I guess I'm glad they didn't
Say
belabor the point.
Grammaton cleric.
Grammaton cleric. They never explain what that actually.
Members of the what was it? The
is
Tetragrammaton.
the Tetragrammaton.
Tetragrammaton Council is the group that leads the fucking government or whatever. So there's Grammaton clerics who are the. Why are they called clerics? Because they thought it sounded cool.
Well, because it's the state-sponsored religion.
Yeah.
I guess.
Like
Is
the
it-
weird
is it-
Nazi cross
I
thing is
feel-
like a cross on the
They-
flag.
they
so
also-
there's-
I mean, they-
No, I don't feel like they.
Yeah, I
go
mean
into-
they literally the guy literally says like it's the new opiate of the masses or
Right.
something like
And-
No,
that.
that's what I was gonna
Right.
say.
And
Yeah,
also
well, I was gonna bring that up
the
later.
like head of government who we find out has been dead the whole time is called like the All Father or whatever. Like it's pretty fucking obvious why they're called clerics. Everything is pretty fucking obvious in this movie because it's about as subtle as a goddamn sledgehammer. Which is
it's as subtle as the hammer that a cleric would use when he's not healing people in Dungeons and Dragons.
Because clerics can't use edged weapons. So
when any of you were a kid, did you know like one of those weird kids who has a phase where they get way into Christianity? Because I felt but then like maybe it doesn't last. Like I felt like the son, like the like extremely like extreme rule follower son.
Right, his little HJ kid. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. What? HJ?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. You should explain that quickly.
The Hitler Youth, Hitler Jungen.
Okay.
The hand job kid. What?
Get your mind out of the gutter.
No,
if you can convince that kid that God is in favor of that, then you get all the HJs you want.
That's
you
right.
know.
Well,
Secret 11.
Well, except we learn later that he's.
But the vibe of that
kid,
when we didn't know that when we thought it was a shoot for that kid.
That's right. That's right.
He did a really good job putting out the vibe of like one of those weird Christian kids who's like, don't take the Lord's name in vain, and then like 2 years later they don't care about that anymore.
I knew kids who were like into Jesus because they were into Jesus, but not none of them for whom it was like a passing fad.
Oh, okay.
Like I just knew kids who were like, brought up super Catholic or evangelical or whatever, and that was just their bag, baby, and whatever. Oh, actually, you know what? No, you know what? I know a kid who I don't know what his current status is or how this turned out for him, but he definitely at one point converted to Mormonism so he could date a Mormon girl that we went to school with. And I'm not sure if it stuck or if he, as soon as they split up, he was like, fuck that. Like, I'm out of here.
Something, HJ, something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Well, the Mormon girls probably weren't going any further than the HJ, so I guess who knows.
And the Hitler Youth?
Yes, exactly. Well, I mean, in a way. Apologies to our Mormon listeners. We probably don't have it. We don't have any listeners, let alone Mormon ones.
Listeners. Yeah.
So the whole thing is that like Ethan said, like the problem is that the way they sort of display the feeling, like when someone is feeling, is like they have like books or paintings or a mirror with a nice frame on it. And so like at the beginning of the movie, there's this raid where we're shown kind of, this is how it works now. These cops and then the cleric, who's like the super cop, they bust into this like house and they're...
Can I please stop for 1 second? And there's this movie. I'm going to go out on a limb here and throw something out there. This movie has the best random dude like running out of a doorway and getting fucking shot to shit like face. Because there's this in the beginning scene. There's like the cops show up and they start raiding the place, and they Dominic Purcell has his one line, and everybody punches the windows out and they're shooting at the cops. Everybody's shooting, and one dude just opens the double doors and just runs out. And of course the cops are there in a line with fucking assault rifles, and they just shoot the fuck out of him, and he does a really good like and fall down like thing. Yeah, really good. There's another one later where that's really good, and another police raid. There's like 5 or 6 police raids. I don't remember which one it is, and the best one is the police raid in the factory or like the warehouse. There's like 2 cops who have this guy up against the wall and they're about to shoot him, and he puts his hand up and just shakes his head and makes this face. He just kind of goes like, "Oh no," and like it's fucking funny as hell. Please go back and look for it. Anyway, it's not funny when he gets shot because he dies, but like that face he makes is really like way out of like does not match what is happening. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Please look forward to it. Anyway, thank you.
Is this in the lead up to the Mona Lisa scene?
Yeah, right. This is this raid. And then they fight. Then after they they execute all these people and whatever, and take some of them away, and they pry open the goddamn floorboards of where these resistance fighters were hanging out. and they pull out the Mona Lisa, and then they have a dude verify that it's the real Mona Lisa, and he does, and then Christian Bale's just like, burn
He has
it.
a magic art identifying computer.
Yeah,
thing.
Wait,
right.
but there's something that you missed there, which is that they're there to get rid of art, and the Persian rug that they throw out of the way to get to the Mona Lisa, not art. Why?
Oh, they might.
I don't
You don't
fucking
know.
know.
They might have burned that after they maybe they wanted to get to the Mona Lisa first, and then they'll burn the rug. Actually, the whole building, don't they like burn the whole building down? So they probably did burn the rug, unless
Listen.
someone kept it.
Listen, rugs aren't art. All right.
Well, that's like
The
that.
rugs.
So this is my
Why
whole
does it have the
problem.
designs? It's
Right. It should just be a black fucking square of fabric on the floor.
I mean, that's like they make that clear with the architecture. Like one of the
Right.
things that you're not allowed to enjoy because it would make you feel a feeling is architecture, except this one style of architecture
Only,
that
yeah.
a lot of people have a weird boner for anyway.
I don't. Yeah, but those
Brutalism.
people are fucking weird. So it's like,
Also, no pillows.
yeah, the
I love an
mattresses
out of-
are very Spartan.
I just want to put I love an out of place Soviet brutalist apartment building. There's a bunch of those in my neighborhood.
That's fair. An out of place.
That's a sense
one
crime,
is-
Ethan.
yeah, right.
You have to be combusted. Sorry.
So that's the thing, right? It's like there's this whole arc. So Christian Bale's character arc is like super short because one, the people who wrote this movie are bad at writing, but also, or the person, Kurt Wimmer, is a bad writer, but also because, like, sort of by necessity, if you want to have a hero that you're kind of rooting for in an action movie, which also it's fucking halfway through this movie before you get the first like decent fight. But his character arc is super abbreviated, right? He goes from like, I don't care that they lit my wife on fire because I think my son fucking narked on her for like feeling a feeling, to like, now I'm going to be the savior of the resistance. And that happens like that. Like there's, you know, he shoots Sean Bean in the face for reading Yeats. And then 5 minutes later, he's ready to fucking jump on the funeral pyre himself to save, Beethoven.
I don't know if I feel like it's more confusing for him and just like us, like, because it's like it seemingly happens for no reason at all. It seems like the catalyst for everything is Sean Bean getting shot in the face, and
But
then
also he
him-
drops a dose of his magic
Right.
feel nothing
But
medicine
yeah,
by
that's what it is.
happenstance. Like,
But then he accidentally drops his feel nothing meds, and then it breaks, and he's like, "Oh, his weird son is like, you gotta go get some more of that shit, dude." And he's like, "Okay, I'll do that before I go to work." And he even does that,
And he
but
goes
then when
to
he
the
gets there,
pharmacy.
it's closed.
I hate it
So
when you go to the
rather
pharmacy
than-
to pick up your script and it's fucking closed. That's some bullshit.
Right, and so then Taye Diggs picks him up there, and rather than tell Taye Diggs, like, "Hey man, I didn't get my shit this morning, and this place is closed, we gotta go somewhere else," he's just like, "Let's go." And
You gotta
like,
go to the raid, man. You don't have time. No time.
it's just like, but there's no, like, why did he make that decision? Like,
Right.
why was
Well,
that?
because he
And
had because he was
then-
off his meds long enough. Like, see, this is. I think there's a version
Was
of this
he?
movie that could be good, where they like, maybe not good, but better.
No.
Where they
Nope.
kind of like,
Hard
if they
disagree.
explain that, like, if you don't take the meds like right away, if you don't get your next dose right away, you'll start to feel like little things, and like.
I think that's what they're going for, but it doesn't read well.
But it
at
doesn't
all.
read well. That's the thing, because like
Yeah.
like we said before we started recording, like Taye Diggs is smiling through the whole. Like I took a million notes about like, wait, if they can't feel anything, like
Yeah.
Taye Diggs talks to him like, oh man, I really like, I look up to you and I want to make my career from you, and like he's like portrayed as this like climber, ambitious dude, and it's like, well, if you have no feelings, you
How
that
do you
wouldn't
have
be a thing.
ambition?
You can't
Yeah.
be
Yeah,
ambitious.
that's another one of the things that is not an emotion. Satisfaction is not an emotion, and neither is anger.
Right.
And neither is like frustration, I guess. And neither is
Yeah.
like.
There is like chuckling at things that you think are stupid. Like
Right.
somebody says something, they kind of do like a
Like the
"You
only
fucker."
the
That's
only
like
time
allowed.
the only time they try to do something with that, which I like, it fooled me into thinking maybe this movie would be more interesting than it turned out to be, because it happens at the beginning.
Right.
Is
I think
he
yeah.
goes to check, like Sean Bean takes the book of Yeats poetry from the crime scene, And Christian Bale's like, what are you doing with that? He's like, oh, like, I'm going to dispose it. Like, I'll take it myself to the evidence locker because sometimes, like, the evidence sweepers do a shitty job and they don't get everything. And then Christian Bale goes to, like, the big evidence locker where the dude has, like, a fucking book. Like a check-in, check-out book where he writes in instead of a computer. And
they have computers to keep track of all this video surveillance footage, but they don't keep the records on a computer because question mark.
But he says, you know, did Partridge is Sean Bean's character's name. He brought this book to like check in the evidence.
Hold up, I have a question. Was he in a pear tree?
Yes. And he's like,
was.
The guy goes, I'm sorry, fucking cleric. You know, I'm sorry. He hasn't been here. You're mistaken. And I'm like, why would he say I'm sorry unless it's just like a verbal tick that has just been like we say that all the time. And then in the next scene, Christian Bale goes to like execute Sean Bean, and he's like, I'm sorry. And Sean Bean's like, no, you're not.
Like how Joe very carefully didn't say Partridge a second time.
But you did. And he's like, you know,
in a pear tree.
You said. He says, I'm sorry, and he's like, you're not sorry, you just, like, say that out of force of habit. And so I was like, is this going to go somewhere interesting? Because that moment, because I was like, it got me. The clerk says, I'm sorry, and I'm like, but would he be? And then Sean Bean's like, no, you're not sorry. But then as the movie goes on, like, it's very clear that people are, again, like, smiling, ambitious, the thing where the flashback where his wife gets fucking burned. Yeah. He tries to stop the cops who kick his door in, and I'm like, is it trying to tell us that he was already kind of feeling? And if not, like, why didn't they arrest him then? And I guess maybe that's part of the Galaxy Brain plot of they knew he could feel because he tried to.
There's a scene almost immediately after. There's like the introductory scene where it's like World War III happened. There's the raid and they burn the Mona Lisa, and then there's like I think like another like shot of like, hey, look, it's 1984 and it's Big Brother and all that. And then they cut to Angus McFadden's character, like he's like, hey man, like I see you're like Christian Bale and you're like fucking cool, and he's like, yeah man, I'm like fucking cool. And he's like, how are you so good at your job? And he's like, he basically just describes empathy. Like he's just like, I just kind of like put myself in other people's shoes and I like know what people are doing. And it's like, and that dude's just kind of like, oh.
And then Taye Diggs says basically the same thing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, for the people who this is written by 90s guys who like you didn't go to therapy in the 90s because that was gay. Right. So like they don't. Empathy is like a new thing for them.
If you're like an LA guy, like in the 90s, you maybe did.
Yeah, maybe I don't know, but maybe not in the film industry. I feel like that's a pretty regressive. You know what? One of the good sci-fi stretches in this movie, I think, is that it would take drugs to turn a cop into a heartless killing machine.
Yeah, that seems.
That's actually called just training.
Yeah, right. You know, they aim
cheaper
for that.
Than...
Yeah. I also think it's funny that as soon as he starts feeling things, the first thing he does is take his glove off and touch a public handrail. So I'm like, oh, the first thing you wanted to feel is disgust. I see. So, I get it.
The note I have for that is this bar fucking rules. But like, does somebody who never like felt anything like feeling like a cold bar, and to be fair, it looked pretty clean, like that probably would fucking rule. Like you would be psyched about that. You'd be like, oh man, if this is how good this feels, like what the fuck is sex gonna feel like?
I was gonna say, yeah, right. Does it mean that like
coming all the time?
Feeling ceilings for the first time in a long time?
Did they cover how children are conceived in this world? Like how he has kids?
Like I said earlier, I feel like the implication is the Demolition Man thing, which is just like you go to a doctor and it's all in vitro. Or like, you know, but like
I want to see some more seashell scenes in this world and less of the.
I mean, again, like that. This movie it's so like it was the scene where he pulls the thing off his window so that he can see the skyline and the rain and the sunset and like have or sunrise and like have a feeling about sunrises and rain and cityscapes. Which, like, I'm with that. I have feelings about those things too. I love a good cityscape with the sunrise and the rain, but like that was the moment where I was just like, this movie is Demolition Man, but like there is no sense of humor. It's just utterly fucking dour, which is why it's infinitely worse than Demolition Man, because the thing where like all restaurants are Taco Bell, but there's no salt in the Taco Bell is like an obvious joke, and this whole like you like oh, Jesus Christ. It's just it's so fucking heavy-handed.
Okay, bud?
It's just, again, I feel like there's a there is a version of this that's good. It's called Fahrenheit 451. It was written by Ray Bradbury.
Yeah. But that's what that's what's like about this movie is like all the stuff that you guys are saying where you're like, it sucks, it's so heavy-handed and like it's stupid, it's written by idiots. I'm like, yeah, dude, it's written by idiots and it fucking sucks. It's funny as hell. It thinks it's super important. It's the dude at the party who smoked weed and had a big idea, and it's like, no, it's
but
that's
I
like,
can listen
It's
to
the
that
dude at a party who was told that he was smoking weed and it was oregano, and he still had a big idea.
Okay, that's true. That's true. But that guy's funny.
I like, but here's the thing with that guy, as someone who is like always sober, right? Because I don't drink or anything. So like when I hadn't been to a party like that in a long time, but like in college when I was at the party with the guy who smoked a joint or thought he smoked a joint and had a big idea, I could listen to him for like 10 minutes and then be like, okay, you have ceased amusing me. I'm going to go talk to someone else now. This movie is a fucking hour and 50 minutes long. And the first, like, whatever you think about the action sequences, like the first decent action sequence is 50 fucking minutes into this goddamn thing.
You didn't like the first action sequence where he surfs on the door into the room and then
the lights go off and
black,
all it is
and there's just like
flashes.
a bunch of flashing and him doing stupid poses with guns and shooting guys.
No,
and
not
then
really.
The tips of the guns are glowing.
I thought that was just okay. I mean, I got what they were going for, like I said, but it just didn't work for me.
That's the kind of shit that like what we were talking about, a 14-year-old would see that and be like, fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, I don't like. So when the next, so we briefly touched on the dog thing, right? So there's all the people, all the like the people in the net. Also, Ethan, I think these
animals were defended by women and children, sir, but we put them down easily.
Right, and they're like, why do we have these animals, right? So then he takes one of the dogs
the dog licks his nose, and he goes, and then he's like, we gotta test this dog, and then he like runs away. Awkwardly runs away.
Yeah,
that was actually really funny.
It's really funny. It was really funny.
Hilarious.
That's probably my favorite scene in the whole movie. Honestly, is
I mean, that's what's so great about this movie's like lack of subtlety.
Heart, you know,
is like we were talking about. Like they need something to make you think about. Like, man, this is really fucked up. And their thing is like, what if a dude with a fucking huge ass shotgun just shot a bunch of dogs in the face? It's like, well, yeah, that'd be pretty fucked up.
Well, like Ethan said, right, that they need something to get for the movie, like, they want, right. The movie needs to get you on its side, and the thing that I agree with Ethan about is that, like, the only thing
audiences hate more than killing women and children or sexual assault is killing animals, specifically dogs,
yeah. But, like, there's a sort of half-ass attempt at a human connection between him and the lady he like captures, who is,
all he
Sean
does is
Bean's
he
girlfriend.
takes a ribbon from her and then creepily sniffs it all the time.
Right. Well, then goes back to he keeps going back to see her. But like
that whole thing is okay. I'll come back to that.
Well, yeah,
go ahead.
But what I'm like, if they had actually fostered some sort of. Like, if the implication was that
he really fell in love with the dog, and then they killed the dog, and then he went and murdered a bunch of people because they killed his dog, that'd be a much better movie.
Something like, there's a movie like that. It's pretty good. They stole his car, too. Steal his car, too, just to drive it home.
Right. What if I have an idea. Wait, I have an idea. Yeah. What if his wife gave him the dog before she died?
Yeah.
And then they kill him the dog, and then he goes out
the car. So that's that sounds like a much better movie.
What if we could get somebody from the Matrix in this?
What if we could get whatever? Anyways. No, but like I feel like if there was some indication that like here's a fix. Let me pitch this to you guys. we see a little bit more of him and his wife before she died, and it turns out that he was already off the drug with his wife, but she gets caught and he doesn't, so to deal with it, to cope, he gets back on the drug, and then, like, does turn into the heartless cyborg, like, cleric cop. And then, like, now he's coming down because he missed a dose or fucking whatever, you know, whatever. Or, like, because Sean Bean mentioned his wife or whatever the fuck reason you give him. Like, that feels like a more compelling, like, that gets me more on the, at least emotionally invested because, like Ethan said, like, the shorthand for feeling is just, like, the Mona Lisa and a Beethoven record and, like,
Yeah.
a thing that looks like a hippie bookshop, like, behind a hidden wall. And, like, not actually, like, anything that not that, like, I mean, I feel emotions when I read books and listen to music, and I think people, you know,
Yeah,
I'm not
whatever,
like,
whatever you say, robot.
but like an actual human connection of, like, he's sad that his wife got fucking immolated for, like, having a feeling about something, maybe him even, like, would do a better job of connecting with the audience, I think, rather than just, like, he listens to Beethoven and then he cries, and I'm
that
like,
scene's
okay.
in the movie. I think it needs to happen earlier, though. That's the thing, like, to make it a good, better movie.
But
you
it's
know?
not
'Cause it's
like he just, like,
Well,
is,
no,
like,
'cause it's-
defending his home like a robot when, like,
Right.
cops bust the door down. There's, like, not...
No, he does that, but I'm talking about, like, way later when Emily Watson's about to get burned alive.
Oh, yeah,
He, like,
but
goes
by
back
then...
and looks at the video. Right, that's what I'm saying. It happens too late. That scene where he watches the video of him watching his wife get burned alive and not feeling anything, and him feeling, like, intense guilt, like...
But they'd already killed the dogs by then, so it's like...
Right. But, like, if they had shown like, that scene earlier on, like, if that had happened early and he had a scene where he, like, broke down, but not in public and then gets caught, but, like, somewhere in private, you're like, oh, dude, okay, like, that does a lot to get you on board earlier with the whole premise. But that is, like, one of the last things that happens in the movie.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't know.
Right. And also it's, like, so short, right? Like, I mean, I noticed that like, that he was watching his wife and that, you know, whatever, he's in the frame and he just looks stone-faced. But, like, I think a little bit more of his wife or something like that. Even if it was more of him with like with Emily Watson's character, like earlier in the movie, starting to, like, understand a human connection, then that would be also, like, this movie wastes William Fichtner, and I'm just not on board with that. Like, while we're talking about supporting cast members,
Ultraviolet also wastes William Fichtner.
that's a fucking tragedy,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, man. He tells us that emotion is chaos, but also needs restraint or something.
Right.
You know what is a bummer is that the way that they do show us that he's, like, understanding human connection through Emily Watson's character is she tries to maybe stab him with a pin, and then he pins her down and maybe is gonna rape her,
Mm-hmm.
and then he decides that he has feelings.
That's emotion is chaos, but it needs restraint. You know, it's the subtext supporting
So
the text.
I definitely don't think it is meant to be read that way. I'll just
I fucking hate this movie.
Say that.
I don't know. I feel like if I was defending myself from getting, like, maybe stabbed in the neck with a pen, I wouldn't then, like, put my head, like, way down and, like, breathe in someone's face like he did.
Oh, no, I'm not saying no. I'm not saying it's not read. It's not bad. My reading isn't that it's, like, horny. My reading is not that he is going to maybe rape her. That's not my read.
Yeah.
Or I don't think it's meant to be read that way. I'm not saying your reading is invalid.
Certainly it's not meant
I'm
to.
just saying it's not meant
She's into it, man. It's okay.
I think the entire premise, like, the entire reason why the Emily Watson character is there is because they said, oh, dude, remember, what was it, Clarice? Is that the Fahrenheit 451? The girl, like, that character. And then, what's the 1984 characters?
I
the
can't
love
remember
interest
her
in that.
name. Right, yeah.
I wanna
Winston
say, like,
is the guy. I can't remember.
I want to say, like, Mary
name.
or something. Like,
That
I don't know.
sounds
Hang on.
about right.
I'll figure this out. However,
Right, yes, she's meant to be that.
Julia.
Yes, yep.
But they're like, oh, well, there's, like, a girl in those movies, so we need to do that. And so they do that, but they do it by introducing like Sean Bean's like lover character is his like object of,
Right. That's the whole.
but
That's
but
the
only
thing that,
like vaguely sort of. It's
Right.
really weird. It's like very strange.
It's really weird.
But it's there. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I do really like that
No, you don't.
William Fichtner's character is like, he kind of shows up like right when, and he's like, "Don't go see her, man. Like it's gonna be too rough." It's like, how the fuck do you even know who this lady is?
Because he's
And
been following him around.
I was gonna
recruiting
say,
him.
that's the other thing too, is when he shows up, he's like, "I've been watching you," and it's like, why?
So I think-
Everybody's been watching
Yeah,
him. 'cause they all
Everybody
know.
like in the entire town seemingly knows that Christian Bale is off the
Because
sauce. and is
he
just, like,
tells
not-
everyone all the time that he has empathy. Only he's the one that's too stupid to understand what that means.
Why is he's
Well, they
like
kinda
he's
all are,
one
though,
of
'cause
these?
Taye
Why
Diggs
doesn't
says the
he
same
know
thing.
about this like surveillance state? Why does everyone else know about it besides him?
That's the thing that got me. I actually took a note
Yeah.
about that, where I was like, this movie gets a lot of the dystopian beats, the normal dystopian beats, but it whiffs on the surveillance
Are
state
those
stuff.
beats by Dre or?
Yes.
Well, it also like it's funny too because in the scenes where he's interrogating Emily Watson, I think the first one they don't do it, but there's like definitely two, but maybe even three scenes where he goes to see her again. And in each of those scenes, they show that a camera is watching them. And that's just like not addressed at all. Like, like I said, again, eventually later on they do reveal it's like a galaxy brain plot by the bad guy to like,
right.
you know. But it's one of those things where it's like Christian Bale would know that there's a camera because it's right fucking there. It's not. It's just like a thing that's in the room that's looking at them. So he would know that. Oh, hey, if I like throw this lady on the table and like sort of make out, almost rape her or whatever the fuck happens in that scene, people are gonna fucking see that. He would know that. But
Yeah, but
instead,
he's so busy having emotions that he's overcome.
they're
the
just too
stupidity.
powerful.
Yeah, they're
So I
just
guess
too
the bad
powerful.
guys are right. So we should like fucking burn
Yeah,
the Mona Lisa.
Alex, take the drugs, burn the Mona Lisa, right?
Yep.
Take drugs, burn Mona Lisa, get paid. That's what it's all about, man. This movie's great.
Oh boy.
I think that this movie would have been better if instead of like the art that I mean the Mona Lisa, Beethoven's Ninth, whatever. What if like instead like because
Like how
he would have never have
Ethan is
listened
so
to music.
dismissive of.
The Lovely Ninth.
I love
all the
Beethoven's
use
Ninth.
of the Lovely Ninth did was remind me of a much better dystopian movie. I don't know
Yes.
if that was on purpose or not, but
No,
fuck, man.
I love Beethoven. I think I like the Seventh the best, just to show my Beethoven bona fides that I've heard more than just the Ninth.
I like Beethoven's
But,
second.
Well, the
But
fifth,
I was
the
thinking like
fifth
he
is
hasn't
really-
heard any music at all. So what if like the thing that brought him to tears was like Big Pun Still Not a Player or something like that?
That would be amazing. Yeah, that would be. Well, that would show that this movie was like slightly self-aware and had a sense of humor, if that was
Yes.
the case. And again, this movie is not interested in that, which is why it's shitty Demolition Man. Also because like the villain is not nearly as charismatic as Wesley Snipes, but
I do like
which
that
is
some of
actually
the-
weird because Taye Diggs
there's
is
a
actually really charismatic, but he's kind of wasted in this. Everybody's wasted in this movie. Christian Bale is trying really
Yeah,
hard.
they're always
to do his
taking
best
drugs.
with
Bump.
Christian Bale's trying to do his best with the material he's given, but he just is not getting there.
That's Eric.
Hey, does Christian Bale kind of suck? Is that? Am I? I don't think I really like anything Christian Bale's in. Does that
I
make
like
me a
American
bad person
Psycho,
for
but
thinking that?
that's it.
I mean,
Empire of the Sun
He's
is
kind of
pretty
bad
good.
and everything. Like he's alright. Like he's an okay Batman, I guess.
I like one of those Batman movies a pretty fair amount. I like American
first
Psycho.
couple are
He's
okay.
really good. Patrick Bateman. I think he's.
I guess.
American Psycho is really good. Swing Kids is pretty good. I like Swing Kids.
You mean listen? You're fucking
Prestige quite a bit.
The Prestige, yeah, the Prestige
You are
is
not an
good.
objective. All right, the Prestige is good. You're right. That's
And
the one.
but
But
there
you're
was
not
one
an
other one.
objective.
The Machinist.
We can't ask Joe because he peed next to him and
That's
has a
true.
bias.
Yeah,
That
he's
is true.
got a connection.
True, I peed next to him. I was in a movie with him and I peed next to him. It's true. He's pretty okay in that movie that I was into them, although I don't think that movie's actually all that good.
All right. Yeah, he's all right. All right.
But
All
he's
right, fine.
the Machinist. He's real good in that. That's a hard watch. But I haven't watched that in a really long time, actually. But
Yeah, me neither.
I don't know if I need to watch
It's
it.
one of those like. Yeah, I guess it's technically good, but I don't want to watch it.
Right, it's like Requiem for a Dream. Not quite
Yes.
to that level, but it's in that strata where it's like,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
was really good. I don't know if I really ever need to watch it again.
Ever need to do it again? Yep. Yeah.
I was just referring back to my notes, and I wonder if we arrived at the scene. I think we may have passed the scene where Christian Bale is apologizing to Sean Bean's body.
No, I
It's a
don't
little
think
later,
so.
but
Actually, I don't think we've gotten
but-
there yet.
Okay.
We're not
okay.
really. We're kind of just like jumping all over the place. I think this
Yeah.
is a
Well-
little more free form.
There's
Then
so many
I think
stretches
that
of
I just-
nothing happening in this fucking movie, which is
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've kind of. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Maybe a la you're noticing the JPEG of Taye Diggs' face on the floor. My favorite little thing in this movie that like is not explicitly shown
Yeah.
is that he didn't want to apologize to Sean Bean's dead body while his dick was out, so he covered his dick with a towel. Because to maximum respect on the apology.
But she shouldn't. Well, I guess he's off he's off the emotion drugs at that point. So I guess he would
Show some respect,
modesty
man.
or whatever,
Yeah.
about that. But like,
And then- well, then why
half
didn't
of my
why didn't
notes
the
are
guy who-
literally about people feeling things.
If the guy should have
Yeah,
come
it's
in
true.
and said like, "Why did you cover up his dick? Are you feeling modesty?"
Right. Yeah, right. Well, but again, it's a Galaxy Brain plot because they know he's capable of feeling something.
Yeah, I guess.
Right.
But the
Well,
one
same
thing that
guy
like,
brings in. So in the place where they have the big book that they write and catalog everything in, like they bring in on a tray all of his belongings that he had on him when he was shot in the face by Christian Bale, and then like Christian Bale takes a photo and then leaves with it, and then they don't notice. Again, it's like you said, like it's a big.
So
like,
I'm
we're talking about the
I'm
Galaxy
willing
Brain
to
plot,
I'm
but
willing to ignore
it's
all
just
those
like-
flubs of him at this point because
Yeah.
it's Galaxy Brain Total Recall plot of
Sure.
the way we got to Quato was we erased Hauser's memory and that's the deal. So but the one that really gets me is in the scene where he shotguns those fucking dudes, the first like real big action beat. They all are like, "Oh fuck, oh shit, he's gonna get us!" Like, and it's like that's fear.
Their emotions, dude.
That's
Yeah.
an emotion. Like, so my whole thing is like, again, like I think it's just bad writing and bad directing.
Yeah.
But I think there's a reading of this movie where you could argue, and I'm not necessarily making this argument, but I want to just like put it out there and see what you guys think. Like that, what the movie is saying is either that human emotion is not suppressible, like you can't fully suppress human emotion, it just isn't possible, or that like there are a bunch of really shitty people who basically just fake suppressing their emotions because they're such massive shitheels so they can get ahead in this like shithole society.
That's my
too
toxic
smart.
masculinity
Where-
thing that I said earlier.
Is it the same thing?
Yeah, that's one of the tenet, like the three prongs of the toxic masculinity argument.
I think this
Well,
movie's
sure.
too shitty to be that
I'm
smart.
listen. But also, plus that wasn't a term that people used in
Well, right.
that era, right?
Sure,
So it's
right.
not. But I mean that you could read it that way if you wanted to be really generous. But
But like you said, I think it requires a level of generosity
Yeah, this
to Kurt
movie's not
Wimmer
that smart.
he hasn't earned.
I don't think it's that this movie. I don't think either of those points is correct. Like I think this movie's too
Hey,
dumb.
did you guys see that part
both.
where he broke that guy's arm? That was pretty sick.
That was pretty
There's
sick.
a-
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
One of the
That was the
notes
best
that I
thing in the whole
made
movie was
is
that arm
with-
break. Was
with-
in a
he
movie
makes-
that was totally limp and completely had like kind of no momentum or anything behind it. Like that one part was Like that was that one cool thing. And then he beats a bunch of guys with the butt of his pistol just by like winging him around like an idiot, and it just completely undercuts anything cool that happened.
I was
going
to comment on that, which is one, like, first of all, like you should not. Pistol whipping people is generally not advised because it can fuck up the barrel and then your gun doesn't shoot straight anymore. So you're not supposed to pistol whip people. But not only does he pistol whip
you just
a bunch
have to know
of
how to
people,
do it properly.
Yeah,
well,
you just gotta use math to hit people correctly.
his
And
guns
have
are
those little
apparently
sticky
made
things.
for because they have little mini hammers on the bottom of his guns, so that they're made for pistol whipping apparently. So I don't know where to go with that. Like, what do you do with that? Also, the guns are pretty cool. They're like super impractically like gigantic. They're like Desert Eagles, and they dual wield them like it's nothing. But I guess that's like part of the statistics foo that they're doing. But
what's weird about the statistics foo is that like there doesn't seem to be like his body doesn't seem to be like they present it as if he's going to be making these unpredictable moves that. Where no one is gonna know, like, but his body isn't like he's kind of doing weird stuff like RoboCop stuff with his arms,
right,
like shooting under his armpits and stuff.
Right.
But like his body he's just running and stuff, like.
Yeah. Oh, and so Alex, I was going to ask you this because
statistically he's at an angle where he might not get hit.
That's right. Statistically, he's in an angle where he's least likely to get clipped. Alex, do you know if this was before or after the first Devil May Cry? It was after, right?
I think after. Yeah, I think it would be after. I don't think there's any connection there, though. I highly doubt that the dude who made this movie was aware of that. You know what I mean? But
what you're saying is, okay, timeline.
Well, no, but I was asking because if Devil May Cry came after, I was gonna say I bet Hideki Kamiya watched this fucking movie.
No, it was before. It was before. Yeah, the other
Yep.
way, but it was before. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. That movie, the Devil May Cry came out. This movie comes out. All of the Devil May Cry sequels get better.
No, they don't.
Actually,
they fucking do not.
The third one did. That's the only
and
one.
then
I only played the first three.
The first one is still like the second best one out of all of them. So yeah, I mean, I don't.
DMC, baby.
Good. 4 is good.
DMC
4 is not good. The remake is good.
DMC, yeah, the remake is fucking.
The remake is good, and 5 is fucking. 5 might be the best one.
I think
actually.
the only thing that would happen with Devil May Cry is you may not get the nunchuck shotgun if this movie doesn't exist. I think that's it. I think otherwise, like both, like it continues as it was.
Yeah, they just go on as they were. Yeah. But I wasn't sure because I was like, man, this is like some of that because the way Dante does the dual pistols, depending on where the enemies are in relation to Dante, is like looks a little gun kata-y in some moments, and so I mean,
there's other influences for that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Like, what was I gonna say?
Were you gonna say?
One of the notes I wrote down is, I came to tell you there's a raid, so that's why I'm wearing kendo gear and got in a sword fight with you.
Yeah, that fight is a pretty good.
Accuse you of a bunch of shit.
That's a fairly good fight, right? Like that
might be the only fight in the movie that I was like pulled into in any way.
I also I don't think the fight is actually that good, especially because like the main bad guy is like kind of doughy, but like the whole movie I was kind of like, okay, so he's like, he knows the badass stats foo, and now he's going to go up against like his old dude. So how many fights are there going to be of these guys trying to shoot each other and not being able to? And there's only one.
Yeah, there's only one.
And it's not very good.
No, it's not good at all. It's so that last fight. So I want to talk about the only thing I do want to go scene by scene on is like the last few scenes because there's so many choice nugs in there.
I say go for it. We've been talking about this fucking movie for.
Okay, before we go to the final gauntlet, the one thing we need to understand is there's a scene where William Fichtner, because this movie's so not subtle. He finds the underground, and William Fichtner basically goes like, "Welcome to Jurassic Park," and they show that it's literally fucking underground. It's not a metaphor. Like literally, the fucking sewer grate with people walking on it on the street is right above them, and the holes in the sewer grate are fucking gigantic. So if you just
look down. Also,
see fucking like piles of books and people. Like,
also, the fucking the way that he finds in is he breaks a fucking wall down inside the police station or whatever.
I think it's like a library, but it's like, why do they have libraries if there's no?
Well, he makes a joke. No, the guy makes a joke about that. About like, oh, do you need another version of another copy of the manifesto of like All Father or whatever? And like, that's the only book they have. But
I thought maybe those were like, because they said it was for the council only or whatever. It was like the transcribed gun kata, like
manual.
The techniques.
Yeah. And then he breaks through the wall, which is like, again, in the fucking ministry or police station or whatever it's supposed to be. He breaks the wall down, and again, the galaxy brain, the galaxy brain plot, the galaxy brain plot's doing a lot of lifting at this point.
Just another break.
Yeah, it's doing so much lifting
because it's just like, well, what, like. They just ignore everything, and everybody has to be on the Galaxy Brain plot or it doesn't work because everybody has to ignore all of the super obvious feelings that he's having for it to work. Also, there's a scene where the only like purpose is to show that his kid isn't a little Nazi, where like I
didn't understand that scene.
Well, the idea is that the kid was pretending to be that way, but had actually stopped taking the drug right after his mom got arrested and killed.
But the kid shows him that he's got like the stash of little drug vials.
No field drug, yeah.
But then Christian Bale understands based on that the kid also hasn't been taking them, and I don't understand that. Why doesn't he think that the kid is about to report him or whatever?
Well, I think it's just because, like,
because he would have already reported him at that point. I think
he would have already reported him. There's literally dudes in the other room who are like looking for shit.
Right.
Okay.
And so he's like, he closed the door and was like, "Hey, like, yeah." I guess,
I see. So the kid was protecting him.
Right. The kid took
he was
them
protecting
so that
him,
they
and he had every opportunity already to give it away. So he's like, "Hey, what do you got there?" You know, and then he's like,
also remember this is a poorly written movie, so
yeah. Also, it's a poorly written movie, so yeah. Also, okay, before we get into the final gauntlet, one last note that I took is that everyone's always walking the opposite way that Christian Bale wants to go.
Yes.
The entire movie.
Listen, hey Alex.
Yeah.
Do you want me to explain the metaphor, or would that help?
This is a smart movie.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. I need to go to bed pretty soon, but I have one thing that we've skipped over that I really needed to point out.
Is it his double watch?
I do as well, but go ahead.
There's right after he starts taking the drug, there's a scene where he's like reorganizing his desk, and this like really important music is playing, and I just thought that was really, it's like a messy desk is representative of emotions or something, I guess.
Well, literally, there's like a fucking
which is important for me because it means that I am empathetic person, because my desk is a fucking nightmare.
You're quite emotional.
Speaking of things that are signified by messiness, also in this movie, being a good guy or a bad guy is strictly determined by how many days it's been since you had a shower and or a haircut. If it's been about 2 days since a shower and like a month since a haircut, you're a good guy. And if you've kind of like maintained both in the last maybe a week for a haircut or 24 hours for a shower, then you're one of the villains.
Well, I haven't had a haircut in a long time, but I do shower daily, so I don't know where that leaves me. Maybe I'm like a morally gray area, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, all the walls in this fucking movie are Metroid walls or like Castlevania walls. There's always like food or secret things hidden in there. You just have to shoot the right part.
Yeah. Okay, so final gauntlet. He goes to the place. They're like, "We're gonna hook you up to a polygraph, motherfucker," and he's like, "Oh shit." And then, like, the polygraph just starts. They
really
reveal the evil plan. Everybody was in on it. This was all to take down the resistance and blah blah blah. Which, by the way, we kind of glossed over how there's this like oppressive totalitarian government. And
I'm sorry, old buddy, but that's my body, and I want it back.
Yeah, and
He's taking the polygraph, and they're setting him up as if they were playing him, and the polygraph is going fucking crazy, and then it goes back to a flat line because actually he was
flat
playing them
line.
the whole time and has control over his emotions, and then drops some guns out of his sleeves and murders everybody.
Yeah, so the note I took for that is polygraphs don't do that.
What?
How dare you? How dare you?
But that hallway fight is the big action scene in the movie. It's really like one of the few real action scenes, and it's like
You're talking about that like Matrix wannabe hallway.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say with the
so
same sort of like the pillars are breaking into.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's great
I
because
just watched that.
there's a bunch of dudes in trench coats and motorcycle helmets lining the
I'm an
hallway
expert.
with assault rifles.
It's a shittier
And
version
two
of the lobby
dudes-
fight in the Matrix.
Two
I think
of
I just
those
realized something.
Yeah.
The reason why they have him switch into that white kind of regal gear in order to meet the head whatever.
Oh, there's these two
it's-
reasons.
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely the reason is if they
He
had
looks
had him do
fucking
that
fly.
scene, wearing black, it just would have been so Matrix that they could have been sued.
Well, also because now he's the hero, you see. He's
Yeah, that
pure-
too.
Everybody else is wearing black and he's wearing white. So
Well, they're not wearing black.
Oh.
They aren't wearing black. They're wearing like Nazi jumpsuits.
But so that whole sequence is great, confusing.
They're wearing
actually,
gray.
to back up. They're all lining the
Or
hallway.
well, in the hallway they are, but when he gets up to the office, they're all wearing black, right? All the guys he
No,
fights in the
no.
office.
Look
I
at
think
the
they're
picture I
wearing gray
posted.
in there.
They're wearing
Yeah.
they're like gray Nazi jumpsuits.
Yeah. But so the
The
guys
final
all,
bad guy is wearing black, I think.
Right. Well, but then right, the okay, one of them they're wearing black, isn't the one in the hallway?
Yeah.
Not the sword fight that you have the picture of here, but the one in the hallway they're wearing black. I thought, aren't they all
Okay.
wearing like the black,
Maybe.
the
I
black
don't know.
trench coats
They were-
and the
they were
black
the black
motorcycle
trench
helmets?
coats.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
right.
The universal incompetent guard
Yes.
yeah.
uniform.
So there's a hallway that leads up to the.
They're actually, you
Christian
know what?
Bale-
They're just like the fucking bad guy. They're just like Joe Pesci's henchmen in fucking Michael Jackson Moonwalker. That's what they're fucking dressed like.
So Christian Bale says, "I'm coming," and then he walks out a door and is suddenly in the hallway that's lined with the bad guys from Michael Jackson's Moonwalker.
Mhm.
And so they're all just standing there,
Waiting to get
and
shot.
two of them are running down the hallway. Two dudes know what's going on and are like, "Well, fuck, we better go down there and get that fucker." Everybody else is just standing there, waiting to get shot. And then Christian Bale like runs into the hallway and just starts shooting everybody after doing some brief kung fu poses with guns. And it's like he shoots those two dudes, and then all the guys lining the hallway are like, "Oh, wait, we should probably like be shooting this fucking guy." It's like it's one of the most confusing things I've ever seen, where it's like I'm pretty sure if those two dudes were running down the hallway, even if they didn't have emotions, they would be like, "Hey, some fucker's coming in like 2 seconds to get us." They would they can still talk. Like they would tell those dudes, "Don't just stand there and wait to get fucking shot." Along those same lines, there's one of the weirdest and most confusing edits in the whole movie, which is he kills the whole hallway full of dudes, and he does like a backflip and shoots guns at the same times. Sometimes he has black hair because he's a stuntman. Anyway,
Yeah.
he gets
There's
to
a
the
couple of
end.
shots where it's super obvious he's a stuntman.
Oh yeah,
Actually.
it's really bad. So he gets to the end and he kills the last two guys. And at this point, he's like ditched his pistols. He's picked up an assault rifle, in a very awkward way. And he's shooting the two guys who are guarding, like literally standing next to the door. It cuts to the other side of the door, where the hallway looks different, and you see two guys are standing on the other side of the door, completely oblivious to everything that is going on 2 feet away from them through like a thin wooden door. And they just get fucking shot to shit in like a half-second cut. And then it cuts back to the guys in the front continuing to be shot to shit. And then all four of them fall down at the same time. And it's the same thing where it's like, okay, why were you guys not reacting to the obvious sound of like 1,000 rounds going off right outside the door? Like, you could have not just stood at the door and just stood there, but they did. and got killed. And it happens so quickly. It's so confusing. I had to watch it multiple times to be like,
But Alex,
what is going on? Because the color coding is off. So you're like, was that just a weird edit of like an insert shot they did somewhere? And it's like, because they're in a green room and they're in a brown room. Why is that happening? And then you kind of like, oh, okay, it's just really poorly edited and makes no sense. Got it.
But
yeah.
Alex, have you considered
Yeah.
the Galaxy
No.
Brain plan?
They were there to. They're helping. They're part of the resistance, dude.
Or that paying attention is an emotion, so
What?
they're unable to do that.
Is paying attention an emotion?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
things that are an
Oh,
emotion in this
oh.
movie is sadness, paying attention. Things that are not an emotion, really most other things.
I was
Most
gonna
other
say,
emotions.
Self-preservation is an emotion. We figured it out. If you don't care, you don't care if you live or die, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
This movie's
That's
smarter
why
than I
not. That's
thought.
why not having emotions is immoral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, a bunch of dudes are in there, and then they have a bit. So, how do you end a movie that's all about gun fu? Obviously,
fight.
a sword fight.
Obviously.
So, a bunch of dudes are standing around with swords, and then very anticlimactically,
Listen,
Christian Bale
if
just
there's
kills
one,
all of them.
if you know how to use a gun, you know how to use any other weapon. Because like a gun is the most evolved form of weapon. So if you learn
Yep.
that one, then you
You're right.
obviously you know all the other ones back down the food chain.
What are bullets if not very advanced swords?
They
Yeah,
are.
right. They're very
They're swords,
advanced.
but they go
high
faster
velocity
and they're
swords.
smaller. It's like a
Right.
phone. It's harder to make a smaller one, right?
It's like
Yeah.
a phone. Exactly. Nailed it.
Like
Yep.
a phone. Nailed it in one.
Like a phone.
One thing that is so Taye Diggs then just says, "All right, dude, well, I'm gonna sword fight you." And they had the sword fight earlier in the movie where they kind of showed that they were like pretty equal. And one thing that cracks me up about this movie is fucking, it's not even a fight. Christian Bale.
Well,
doesn't
wait,
fucking
hold on.
fight.
We ran out of money for the climactic sword fight, so
I really liked that. I liked that scene because
I liked it a lot too, actually.
I was
I like
buckled
it.
up for an arduous fucking thing where we
Yep.
don't really see anything in a medium shot and like we have no idea what's going on, and instead they gave us what
Bale-
was maybe.
And that guy
one
was
of
a
the only
total
things in the movie
asshole about like
Everything.
don't ruin my suit or whatever, and then he just fucking wrecked him.
he
That's
ruined his suit and his face.
He turned his face into a shape.
He didn't ruin his face.
He did.
He ruined
His
the
face
head
is
behind
good.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
But
Yeah.
so then we get to the final fight, which is the dude.
He gave his
who's,
face compression artifacts though.
we get to the final fight, which is the main bad guy, and he's kind of like a not super in shape dude, but he knows gun fu. Christian Bale knows gun fu, and they play what I've always referred to as the deadliest game of patty cake you've ever seen. Because it's just both of them trying to shoot each other, and the other person just slapping their wrists so that their guns.
I was laughing so hard during the scene; it was almost worth watching the rest of this shitty fucking movie.
It's a great
really funny.
it's like a
It's
minute
really good.
long, and it's
Yeah,
really
it's,
funny.
it's a minute-long slap fight.
But-
That's exactly what it is.
And we can end on this because we've kind of already covered. Then Taye Diggs' face is on the ground. The resistance
Amazing.
blows up a bunch of shit. The end. Okay, great. But the lead up to the fight is like he's basically like, I'm gonna fucking shoot you, cleric. And, he's like, well, you're a dick or whatever. And then the last line before they start fighting is, "Be careful, Preston. You're treading on my dreams." It's like, somebody somewhere thought that was fucking cool, and it's like, dude, come on. Like,
The
what?
bad guy tries to convince him not to kill him by playing to his empathy.
Yeah, he asks
And
something like,
quoting
"Is
Yates.
it really
Life.
worth it? For him to deal with the weight of taking a life?
Right.
He's in a room full of 30 bodies.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He just killed 80 dudes trying to get in there, and he killed like 40 cops trying to protect a dog. It's like, I don't think he's too worried about it,
You
pal.
couldn't see the cops' faces though.
That's
I'm
true.
life. I have emotions. Now what are you gonna
In
do?
the very end of the movie, when you see a whole bunch of militant white guys in kind of gray shirts mowing everyone down with automatic weapons, the guys who they're shooting have a darker color shirt and they have helmets on. So it's good when that happens.
Yeah. So do you guys think Kurt Wimmer, whatever his name is, likes Yates?
seems, or somebody like he had a friend who told him. Like,
Okay, yeah, that's it. Yeah. Anyway, what a fucking shitty movie. What a terrible time. What a great time. I love this movie. I'm glad we did it. I'm disappointed that we didn't do this sooner. Like, I don't know how I let that happen. It's been years, and I didn't subject you to this. Subject you guys to this dumb shit.
I feel like you've subjected us to worse shit than this.
Dude, this movie fucks. This movie's great, man. This is a great movie.
If we still did silly names for these episodes, the one for this would be "This Movie Fucks," because Alex has said it about 100 times so far, and I remain unmoved. I still think that some of the action sequences are fun. If somebody is interested in this movie, they should just watch those because they have their moments. Apparently no wire work was done, so even when they're doing like weird sideways flips and shit, that's all like stunt people doing stunts without wires, which is kind of neat. But god damn, dude, it's just fucking it's just fucking read Fahrenheit 451 and then watch The Matrix. Like, you'll have a better time.
That's that's true. But anyway, I still think this movie's so bad it's good. But you know,
it's just if there was more, like, there are a lot of dumb movies that do dumb shit or aren't, like, you know, I think a big part of it is this movie. This is like going to what Ethan was saying early on, is that I feel like Kurt Wimmer thought he had something to say with his like dumb fucking action movie, and like that it's like, fuck, dude, no you didn't. I mean, you did, but you said it in the dumbest, most obtuse fucking way possible and with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer, and like I would have been fine if you just a tiny bit of levity would have helped the fucking extremely long periods of nothing that happened in this movie be a little more bearable. Like, I guess in my brain, because like, again, looking back on it, I'm not certain that I'd ever seen this entire movie before. I definitely seen at least the second half of it, but like it like I feel like it was more action heavy than it actually was, which does make me feel like I just watched the second half of it, because like if this movie was taking itself as seriously as it does, but like every 10 minutes he fucking shot 20 people, I'd be like, whatever, it's fine. You know, but it's it just fucking goes on, and it's an hour and 50 minutes. And I know we talk a lot about movies in this show where we're like, yeah, that could have lost 15 minutes, that could have lost 20 minutes. This movie could be 70 minutes long and it probably would be a lot better.
I feel like it simultaneously moves much faster and much slower than I remember. Like I said, I remember the Sean Bean stuff lasting like way longer than it did, but also this movie's fucking way too long.
Way too long.
I don't think anyone mentioned this
long.
movie because I think my brain was kind of fooled into thinking that somebody maybe did because of Demolition Man, which is like 2 degrees separated from Dread, the one from the
Carl Urban
2000s. Yeah, the which one?
The Carl Urban one?
Yeah.
That movie fucks. All right.
Yes, I love that movie, and I got definitely from the very beginning of this movie the sense that like that movie has kind of a similar setup to this movie, but it kind of understands more what the world would actually be like under like this, crushing totalitarian rule.
It also has like fucking 40 years of Judge Dredd comics, like
that's true,
underneath it, right? So, or 30.
But it also understands that the hero in this story would like. You don't have a character like that who, like, I mean, in this movie, it's the like it's so unconvincing and so like easy for him to flip to the other side, as we said. Like the more realistic scenario is just that like to tell a story in that world, the villain has to just become the hero. And like in Dread, you just follow, like an agent of the totalitarian state, and the movie never really like blinks. Like it doesn't even make a comment on that.
All it does is just make the bad guys are just even worse than he is, right?
Yeah,
like, that's how the movie. That's how that movie, like I have like a sentimental soft spot for the Stallone Dredd, but obviously the big misstep the Stallone Dredd movie makes is that it tries to make Dredd like a typical 90s movie, the typical role Stallone would play, where like he goes through this arc of realizing that like his like zero tolerance shit is not exactly the way. And I guess there's a little bit of that in the Carl Urban Dredd, where he like doesn't fail her.
Little, maybe.
Well, he doesn't fail her for losing her weapon and all that, you know what I mean? Like that's a part of the thing. It's like going in, he's like, if you lose your weapon, if blah blah blah, if blah 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 blah, you fail, like you can't be a judge. And then he like looks the other way on that shit, which is like, that's character growth for Judge Dredd, right? So, but like, but the way that movie mostly does it is just like the gangs that run peach trees are just like way, like the judges are bad, but the gangs are worse. So like we want,
and the world
Dredd,
is not really going to be a better place when he wins,
right?
Although maybe this one apartment complex will.
Right, this one place will be a little better for now, but like, right. But that movie understood. But again, I think having, whatever, Judge Dredd started appearing in British comics in like the super early 80s or late 70s. Yeah, so like, I
think,
that's like a lot more. This is just like the brainchild of the dude who wrote the fucking Total Recall remake, so.
Yeah, I guess I didn't consider that. Maybe there was like somebody writing those comics who was smarter than anyone in Hollywood.
Yeah, I think the person, I can't remember his name now, but like the guy who created Judge Dredd is absolutely smarter than like 90% of the people who write movies in Hollywood. That's a high bar to clear or anything, but.
All right, so the final lesson is emotion's good unless they're bad.
And then they're bad.
Emotions are good unless they're
I think.
Well, no. Emotions are bad unless they're most good emotions, which are not emotions, and those ones are okay.
Okay.
So, also, like, I don't want to go back.
Also, the only way to express your emotions is through art. So,
right.
Actually, like caring about people and interacting with them doesn't. That's not meaningful.
Why would blowing up? Like, why would it matter if like the guy is dead? Yes, no, right. That I understand. Yeah. I'm saying, why would it matter if the All Father or whatever is dead or not? When right, but if the whole thing is like your emotions are being suppressed, so you don't realize like how shitty your situation is, like, wouldn't just blowing up the drug factory so people can't take their feel nothing drugs for like a day be enough for them to be like, wait, this fucking sucks. Like, we're not going.
There's absolutely no reason that
redundancy in supply chain
needs to be killed.
There is a reason, which is that it gives Christian Bale a reason to go like into the lines to get into a big action scene.
Right, it's a plot contrivance for sure.
Yeah,
I don't know. You need to get rid of the drugs and also put an end to the symbol.
I mean,
I think that's what they're going for.
But I mean, that's what they're going for. But
because the populace isn't cowed just by the drug.
I mean, I kind of got the vibe that they were, but because all the people who aren't on the drug just like hang out and read books anyways, right? So I also kind of felt like there was a little bit of the 1984 thing of like I can't remember what are they called in 1984? The people who aren't party members, like everybody else. Where it's like they could easily have like they had the numbers that they could easily just like rise up and like depose Big Brother and take over, but like they don't care enough to do it, so they just don't. And like I guess I sort of got that vibe from this, but maybe not. Maybe that was me being too generous with the reading and like projecting too much of the obvious influences of this movie onto the movie itself.
Yeah, anything that's good about this movie has to be brought by you, except for cutting Taye Diggs' face off and leaving it as a JPEG. And I forget what the one or two other good.
The arm break.
The arm break.
Is the arm break.
I have to say, I was really disappointed with the concept of gun kata. versus the reality. Like, I had high expectations.
I think that dog is fucking super adorable.
Yeah,
Good
They
dog.
It's a
did
very
a
good
really
dog.
good
It's a
job
very
of
good
getting
dog.
a like
Good dog
hey,
casting.
Yeah,
Yes,
great
yeah.
dog casting.
Okay, well
like,
now I need you guys to help me now because I'm thinking of a movie that has a similar like
Brazil.
gun. No,
Paddington.
nope,
Beethoven.
You're going the
Nope.
other- you're going
Nope.
the other direction.
Beethoven?
no.
Beethoven has a similar dog, Joe. I think
a
that's,
similar-
or maybe you're thinking of
Second?
Beethoven's second. Yeah.
Yeah.
a similar like two guys who are super good with guns fighting with guns and not being able to shoot each other sequence that's actually done well.
Every
Oh,
John
that's-
Woo movie.
That's actually Beethoven's second.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
actually,
shit. Thanks,
yeah,
thanks,
the,
Eric.
It's wild.
The Newton family is going to the dogs.
Like there's something that I'm thinking of where like
I love your brain.
I can't remember if it's that they both have guns or there's one gun that they're fighting over. But there's
Here's my
some-
advice, Joe. You type in "two guys fight with guns" into Google, and then in a
See what
month,
happens.
when you find out what it is,
Yeah,
you can
right.
report
At
back.
3
to
in the morning. I'll send you guys. I'll send you guys a thing that's like, I figured it out. It
Are
was.
you thinking about that
this.
Angelina Jolie movie where they punch while they're shooting the gun and the bullets
No.
curve? Because that's how
Wanted.
it works.
Wanted is the name of that.
You
probably-
about the,
you probably
think
love
about
that
the
movie.
Matrix.
I've never seen that movie. I'll never fucking watch that movie. You kidding? Fuck
I mean,
that.
you like this movie, so you probably would
You
like
like
that
this
movie.
movie, yeah? You're not. Listen,
I guess that's this movie's got a brain though.
Not a good brain, as Ethan so
No,
succinctly
it's
put
rotted
it.
and diseased, but it's in there. I think how stupid this movie is like a big part
It's
of
life.
that it cracks me up about this movie. Like, yeah. Anyway, yeah, but yeah,
But
you're
it's,
gonna do
but
more.
it's stupid. It's stupid, but it doesn't know it. There's plenty of stupid movies that don't care. This one thinks it's maybe smart.
Right.
Yeah. And therefore should be
Yeah, I
crushed.
think you know what I think is this movie actually could be. Yeah, just if all you would only even really need to salvage the ridiculous idea of gun kata, this movie could be remade, and it could be good. I think if you'd
That's
have
what
to
I was.
really
I
like.
said I think there's a good version of this movie, and
Oh, okay, yeah.
you all told me to shut the fuck up, basically.
listen. I know of a guy who writes a lot of. Have you heard of this guy named Kurt Wimmer? He's written a bunch of really successful remakes of action movies.
What's one of the good? They need to get Paul Verhoeven to do the remake of
this guy's
Equilibrium.
shitty movie. Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
I'd watch
absolutely.
the shit out of
I'd
that.
watch a Paul Verhoeven version of this. Absolutely, 100%. I'd watch like a Ryan Johnson remake of this. I would watch.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's got the action.
He's got the stuff.
I
Yeah.
mean, Looper
I would
was
watch.
pretty
Speaking
good.
of the stuff, I would watch a Larry Cohen remake of this.
But only if Michael Moriarty plays the Christian Bale role. And Garrett Morris plays the Taye Diggs role.
Yeah. All right. Are they all dead?
Yes, every single person I just named is dead, I'm pretty sure. Michael Moriarty might still be alive, actually, but he's old if he is.
Anyway, all right. I need to go.
All right. Does anybody have any final thoughts before I go ahead and
I'm glad I watched it and I'm ready to talk about it.
Michael Moriarty is still alive. He's 80, but Michael Moriarty is still alive.
Well, let's get this shit together.
So
I've got one important piece of information before we leave, which is that my Halloween movie for this year was Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. It
That
was
movie
not the
rules.
first time I've seen it.
That
It's
movie
maybe like the
rules.
fourth. But goddamn, that movie is so good. Everybody
That's all right. Yeah.
everybody needs to just go watch that if you haven't seen it, or if you have.
Tom Atkins fucking rules. It's
Yes.
yep.
The fucking
It's
good ass subtitle too.
it's one of the horror sequels that is close to that's actually good. Exorcist 3 and that one, and Texas Chainsaw 2. Anyway, let's get out
All
of
of
here.
those are good. All right. We'll be back with a Christmassy thing next month, so look forward to that.
Yeah.
Equilibrium 2.
Eh,
Turn of Big
Thanks
Brother.
for hanging out
Weird.
with
It takes
us.
place during Christmas.
This
I don't know
one,
why.
this one didn't. This,
Weird choice.
Let's see. This movie doesn't have Jean-Claude Van Damme in it, which means that like 15 people are going to listen to this show. So enjoy it. If you made it this far, thanks, and we'll be back next time.
The cookie
Good.
down.
Good night.
We did it.